everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Divorce and Separation Coach podcast. This week, we're talking about a really fun subject. How do you create a home that's truly yours after divorce or separation? So, you might be staying in the family home after the separation, or you might be getting a new place. But either way, it is an opportunity to create a space that is yours, a place where you're going to feel comfortable and that kind of marks the beginning of a new life. So, to talk about this, I've invited an amazing interior designer. Her name is Eldon Lacke, and she's the founder of Elsine Interiors. She creates stunning interiors for busy people, taking away the overwhelm and turning houses into homes. She offers full interior design services, but also tailored consultations and expert design direction for any home challenge, big or small. For Els, interior design is more than about aesthetics. It's about creating spaces that nurture well-being, support mental health, and bring joy to everyday life. Thank you so much for joining us, Els.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It was great to have you. And I know that you've worked with a lot of people who are experiencing transitions. And usually it's a time where people want to change their surroundings as well and reclaim a space. So maybe if we start with the example of somebody who's staying in the family home, a home that they've probably decorated with their spouse, that has a lot of imprint from their spouse. How can they reclaim that space and make it both emotionally and practically theirs?
Yes, it is actually. I think people have to see it as an opportunity. It's a life-changing moment, and which is scary, but also this is the time to maybe reinvent yourself a bit, going
Yeah,
true to yourself, whether it's a divorce or I had it with health reasons, but people can just take this as, okay, stand still for a bit. Is this what makes me feel good? How do I want to feel? And there will be places or aspects in your own home that you may not like.
yeah,
And I think anybody will have that. There may be too much clutter. There may be you don't really like the style. And I think a home has to be a place where you feel good, you want to be. And that can be a bit of an escape. And I think if you stay in your own home, it's like, okay, maybe you don't need a full redesign, but having a look at the colors,
yeah.
do these colors make me happy? Are these my colors or the style? This may be a bit more classical, or that was maybe compromised with my former spouse. So I think it's really looking at what do I want,
Yeah.
and how do I feel and how do I want to feel? Because a lot of it is actually a bit scientific, but playing with colors. I think I listened to your session with Mel, the personal stylist as well. So psychology of colors and materials
Yeah.
and patterns. And it's really something that doesn't have to be difficult. You can keep what you have, but just enhance it and maybe get rid of a few things that don't make you feel good. So I think it's a good opportunity. Mm.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's important to, even if you're staying in the same four walls, to still feel that it's your space and that, that
Totally.
that transition is also material around you and the space you create around you. Now, the problem is a lot of people, especially when you've been married a really long time, they kind of lost track of what they like, what matters to them, because you're so used to compromising and taking into account the other person's taste. How do you help people design for who the person they are at that stage in their life?
Mm. I think it's getting to know yourself again.
Yeah,
Maybe a quick easy way of starting is having, if you're too scared of starting all over or putting a lot of new colors, starting on paper, have a little mood board, stuff
yeah,
in there that you like, you don't like, and go back to that a few times. And then you'll see, like, oh, it makes me feel good. This is actually how I want to feel in my home. This
yeah,
doesn't feel good. So that will already define a bit your style. And then have a look at what you have. What can I reuse? What can I do better? And it
yeah,
can be new colors, it can be just a new rug, new table lamps, the styling of or the lamps, different, creating some layers. So I think it's if you're too afraid or not used to restyling everything, start maybe on paper and just go back to that a few times, and you'll really start to feel how you could feel in your own space.
yeah.
And if you look at that mood board and it makes you feel good, well, then you know this is what we're going to try to recreate.
Yeah. And I agree. I think that there's an element of finding it something that makes you, that works for you. I had a client who had her husband never wanted to redo the kitchen. It was just not a financial priority for him. And when they separated, she loves to cook. And so it was a very important space actually for her. And so she knocked out the current kitchen and extended it and made this gorgeous
Amazing.
space. And it's actually all pink, which is quite funny as well. She put that female imprint on it, but she
Mm.
created a space that is entirely hers, that is unrelated to her previous relationship, and that really reflects her personality. And I think that's a great example of how you can change things and still be at home, but create a new home.
Totally. And she must feel so good and re-energized and proud of her new space, which is
Yeah.
truly hers. And she did that. And then
Yeah.
every time she walks in that kitchen, she gets the same feeling. And that's what people you want to create. And that's whether it's interior design or coloring or styling, but you can really create the feeling you want to have when you walk into that space.
Yeah.
And it's a bit scientific, and it's looking into where does your daylight come from. Is it north facing or south facing? For example, I have an office north facing, and white on there actually looks gray, so it's a bit
Mhm.
draining. So it's
Yeah.
looking into these things, and maybe it hasn't happened in the past, or the spouse didn't like pink,
Mhm.
for example. And then now it's like, okay, let's just do create a feeling I want to feel in my home.
Yeah.
Yes, and that is, I think, a very important moment in their life.
I agree,
Yeah.
especially if that home has been tinted by conflict and unhappiness.
Mm.
Uh, Putting that fresh coat of paint almost,
It's
metaphorically
literally, yeah.
as well. But yeah, so. How do you help people? I'm sure they come to you with a bunch of ideas, but how do you help them channel that into an actual project?
Yes. So I think in the beginning, I actually start with this. How do you want to feel?
Yeah,
And people know how they want to feel. I want to feel cozy or calm or energized or inspired. And that for me already tells me their color. And we work with color. For example,
yeah,
someone who wants to feel calm, I'll use colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. Someone who wants to feel energized, I'll
yeah,
use opposite colors on the color wheel. I'll look into where the daylight comes from. I will help people decide on the style that makes them feel happy. It doesn't need to be one style. We can combine it, but then it's about that balance. For example, you can have a mother interior with some vintage style pieces in it. But if it's 50-50%, it's a bit imbalanced. So actually, it's better to work with 20 or 30% of
yeah,
accents. And then I always look into lighting. So it's important to create layers of lighting. So you have the
yeah,
task lights, which we all need. Then important is that ambient lighting for the evening and maybe some accent lighting on a piece of art. And actually, in the evening, you prefer not to put the task lighting on, and then you create another feeling again, which is perfect for the evening. And then I help people with like the styling, the materials, patterns, someone who loves white. Everything has to be white, great. But then we will work with patterns or materials. So to create some interest and that within that color palette.
yeah,
So that's a trick as well. It's a science. And what so often I like you mentioned, I do full interior design, but some people who are just stuck, who want quick fixes, I do
mhm,
these consultation sessions and it's so efficient. And we really work with their space in person or virtual. And then we come out with a clear action plan with quick fixes. And I think for our listeners now, that may be an important thing to have quick fixes without going through another big interior design process.
that's
Some
true.
people love that, but other people find it draining or there's no budget. And yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess that's again, it comes back to that difference whether you're staying in the family home or you're moving into a new space. Because if you're creating a whole new space and then purchasing a new or renting a new location, then you do have that completely blank canvas to work from. So
Yeah.
I guess there's more opportunity in that context.
It's more opportunity, but I think it all comes down to the same thing, like new place or the old place. How do you want to feel in your place? And in an old place, you'll already know it better. You know, oh, that light, I love that evening light, and so on. And then maybe you want to get rid of a few pieces that make you feel less good. In a new place, you need to reinvent yourself as well, because obviously you start from scratch, already so
Yeah.
many changes. Then it's an opportunity. I think it's hard, but it's an opportunity. And the fun thing is, you can really decide how you will feel when you walk into your kitchen.
Yeah.
And that is something that you can just say every morning, I want to feel this way. And
Mhm.
then we create that.
And do you think that it's a good idea for people to make these kind of decisions right away after, during or right after the divorce, or is it better to let times go by and reconnect a
I
little bit
think
more with what their new
it's a
life looks
very
like?
personal thing. I think so. Your home has a big effect on your mood. So
Yeah.
if you're already in a very difficult space in your life and phase, for example, 70% of people really are affected by clutter and how their home may not feel right for them. So I'm like, why wait? Why can you, if you can create some quick fixes,
Yeah.
um, it's a lot of studies show that people can feel more than 25% happier if there's an intentional design or color. So I'm like, why wait and feel drained? Just by, you can even new cushions or a blanket or a throw or some plants and some candles, and just feel a little bit more at ease at home.
Yeah.
So it starts to be your home. So uh, I would say just, I think people deserve it, and they can do this even if it's with small quick fixes for
Yeah.
themselves. So no need to wait.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that was absolutely my experience. I remember, I was renting, so I couldn't redo the kitchen.
Yeah.
But I remember that very quickly after my husband moved out, I changed all the bedding and I bought a new lamp and I changed, I also removed some items. Photographs is an obvious one, but also things that we had bought together and that had more, of an emotional,
Mhm.
attachment to them. But they were fairly superficial changes, I guess, but they helped me kind of reclaim the space and feel like this was now my home.
Yeah. It may seem superficial, but it goes very deep for you personally. So an item that you bought together that really that doesn't make you happy, it's better not to keep it if you can dispose of it. Or indeed, like a new bedding, like that is just my new bed, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's a new fresh start in that bedroom. I think it's important, and it may seem superficial, but it's not. It's
yeah.
very, very deep. Yeah.
No, you're right. You're right. And it is about what you were saying earlier is creating a sanctuary, a place where when you go home, you feel good, you feel safe. And in a lot of cases, the years leading up to a divorce are not years where you feel that way in your home. And so actually, recreating or creating that environment is really important. How do you use, textures, layout, lighting to create that sense of a sanctuary for people?
If people tell me the word sanctuary, then obviously I will not go with a lot of opposite colors because that's very bright. I will go for a bit more neutrals or warmer colors. It could be even moody, but
Mhm.
it's just that you create calmness. Often it's with not that much colors, but a lot of authentic natural materials. So wool, linen, wood, and those are the materials. And you don't need to use a lot of color, but it just feels very calming. Some candles, the right lighting in the evening.
Mhm.
Just have two table lamps. Only put that on. Have a wall blanket next to you. Some new cushions, and that can already lift or actually create that softness that you're talking about.
Yeah, I love that. So do you have any practical tips? Because what's obviously coming to mind is this could be quite pricey at a time where a lot of people find themselves actually at least a little bit impoverished by the divorce.
Of course.
Do you have any practical tips on how you can transform your space without spending a fortune?
Well, I think the things as I already mentioned do not have to be expensive. Some cushions, a blanket, candles, even a rug. And it doesn't need to be an expensive one, but if you just have some texture or some wool in it, a rug that's maybe a bit larger than it was, so you get a bit more grounding, a bit more patterns, and that really doesn't need to be expensive. even just a fresh lick of paint somewhere. If you do it yourself, it can just be a
Yeah.
fun therapeutic thing to do. And like that's also, for example, like I mentioned earlier, I have these sessions with people, and they don't need to have a full interior design process fee. It's just one session for them to create quick wins. And I do that with people who actually do not want to spend the budget, but they just want to have some expert advice.
Yeah.
And so, yes, of course, this is for a lot of people not the time to splash or spend a lot of money, but
Yeah.
you can still do it without spending a lot of money.
Now that's good to know because sometimes people are a bit scared and it could be more of a phased approach where you start with the cheaper, easier fixes and then you could potentially move to
Exactly. You can do it
a
in
bigger
phases,
transformation.
and then indeed, then whenever you're ready, you may want to do a new kitchen, but you can do it definitely phases. And sometimes the planning also helps because you know, like, okay, now I'm just doing this, and you have this mood board, and next year I would like to do this, and it's a bit goal setting, and you
Yeah.
work towards that, and that can also be very like a new project. You work towards
Yes.
something. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's very helpful for people to have at a time where it feels like a lot of things are breaking and changing.
Mhm.
Actually, doing something constructive, having that project that's a forward-looking activity can be a really, a really comforting thing to have in your life at that stage. Now, we talked a lot about the mood that your clients would want to see, but I'm thinking of the children as well. And one of the scenarios that comes up a lot is when inevitably one of the two, if not both of the spouses, move out of the family home. And they're moving into a new space. The children have experienced a lot of change. And it's usually very important for the parents to create a real space for the children, for them to feel like this is their new room. It's the start of a new way of living. Let's make it all yours. Let's really make it special. Do you design with children? How do you help people through that?
Yes, so obviously, people have family homes and their children, and I think it's very important, and especially in these phases in life, that children always remain something that's familiar, something that they feel good and that has good memories. It can be
Yeah,
teddy, can be a blanket, can be a poster, but it is also their room. It's an opportunity to do something fun together and to get them involved, be creative. What's your favorite color? What cushion do you like? What shall we put on the wall? Maybe some pictures, maybe of the family member they see less, if that's appropriate. Then that is something, because obviously for them it's their room, it's their
yeah,
little safe place. So, and I think it's fun to do it with them. Also, they then feel empowered that
yes,
they had a say in it, and but keep something familiar, take something that is part of their background, and then they can just feel at home in their room. And I know how it is, right? We all with children, there's a lot of sometimes toys, and if you just put a few baskets, it's
mm,
easy to tidy up, and it's something fun to do. But as an adult as well, it's nice that the room is something for them, but you teach them how to tidy up, and it's
yeah.
easy, it's fun, but it creates some depth as well. So yeah, I think baskets is always a quick win for children
Yeah.
rooms. Yeah,
Yeah, I remember I was a big fan of baskets with my children because there was always a
totally.
million things hanging on the floor. And so, in that case, would you actually speak to the children? Do people involve their children heavily, or do you usually work with the parents?
I think often it's usually the parents, but if I can, I would get the children involved, and especially within these circumstances, I would love that, depending on the age, of course.
Yes.
And it's nice also that they see, if, for example, I come in their house, that they know, oh yes, she's going to help it make it even better and enhance it, and that they feel that there's a say in it, and indeed maybe using their favorite color, and just for them to make it feel familiar, and it's not a big new project, another big
Yeah,
project that changes their life. It shouldn't
that's
be.
true.
Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, so I guess both for the children and for the parents, it's creating a space where you feel good. It boils down to
Totally.
feelings. I've heard you say that repeatedly throughout. How do you want to feel in that space, and how do you want your children to feel?
It's very important, and it really affects our mood, and we can help it. We can there are tools to use to make us feel good in our space. So I think it's important to be aware of that and to use that. And you don't have to live in a space where you don't feel good. And the architectural elements are one thing, but you can work with that and you can make it better so you feel good, because something that may feel good for me is not the right thing for you, or the other way around. So I think personalities and style is very important, and how you want to feel. Somebody who starts a new job, who's 23 years old, that person might want to feel very energized, but someone who just went through a divorce want to feel different. So it's really working with that.
Yeah, I love that. So could you tell us a little bit before we part ways? You are giving us a special offer for some of our listeners.
Yes, so I'm very happy to give a discount of 50% for my consultation sessions. And so what's included there? So I send them a questionnaire, so I understand very well what the pain points are and what they would like to achieve, or they just do not know. Then I have a consultation session with them, which is between 60 and 90 minutes. It's really expert advice for their home or space. It can be in person or virtual, which works very well as well. Then we work with some videos and some pictures. And then afterwards, they get an action plan really personalized on them, what they can do, guidelines, and so on. And I think, so I'm very happy to offer 50% discount for 6 weeks for your listeners.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much. I will put all the information in the episode notes. So people who want to reach out to you and take advantage of that offer, it's a very, very generous offer. So thank you so much, Els.
You're welcome. Very happy to do that.
And thank you for joining us today. Thank you for sharing all those insights. Take
Bye.
care.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya. Bye.